my name is Valerie Elliott, and I'm the owner of Y-kiki Divers. I am very excited about our speakers for tonight representing the Coral Reef Alliance. But before we bring them on board to make their presentation, I just wanted to go over a little bit of shop news while I have this opportunity. So first off, under the travel heading, we've got our Bull Shoals Lake Dive Weekend coming up. So for many, many years, we've been doing a houseboat trip down to Bull Shoals. This year, we decided to move it to land-based, and we've taken over an entire little resort called the Rocky Hideaway. They've got individual cottages. So we're just switching it up a little bit, trying to just try a different route. So we've got 3 spaces still left on that trip, and the flyer is up on the website. That's October 3rd through the 6th. So great weekend lake diving, food's provided, all of the air fills, the logistics, that sort of thing. And so just a great fall weekend getaway. For my Stacia trip that Jeff and Stacy Mormel are leading, October 11th through the 18th, St. Eustatius, it's commonly known as Stacia. I've got a male share still left. Mike? Male share still left, October 11th through the 18th. So let me know if any last minute takers on that one. And then Cozumel, I did have to release my space and airspace, but there's still plenty of availability on that trip. So sometimes these fall Caribbean destinations, if you find yourself with availability, give us a call. It's over the Halloween weekend, the Day of the Dead festivities in Cozumel at a Star, October 25th through November 1st. Yeah, that one's fun. So I do have space available if you're interested in joining us. And then I do have a few spots left for our January getaway. We go to Little Cayman. Absolutely love the property. Great hospitality, 3 dives a day, all meals. Great little bar set up there. And I've got a few spots left for that one. And it's at the end of January. So good time to get out of Dodge. Finally, I did want to make mention that I had one customer switch from Banda on over to Fiji. So I do have a male share available for the Banda trip aboard the Dewi Nusantara. This is going to be Banda Sea, which is in Indonesia. 5-star everything. So just a really fabulous trip. So if you have availability for April time frame, let me know. I have one more spot open up there. I do want to make mention that with the cooler weather, the temps here, to remind everybody that we actually only have about 7 weekends left in the formal dive season. And so we've got one more rescue class available, which ties in nicely with our Master Scuba Diver Challenge contest that's going on. So do take a look at your calendars. Time is running out. And we'd love to have you join us. So Master Scuba Diver Challenge is open water, advanced open water rescue, 5 PADI specialties, and 50 log dives. And PADI is waiving the registration fee. And then, of course, you would be entered into our contest. PADI's got a contest, but your chances of winning are smaller. Our contest is you have more chances to win, and we're going to be, the award is going to be the Garmin MK3i, dive computer. So
300 entries so far.
300 entries.
So your chances are pretty good.
That's pretty cool. Excellent. And then I do want to make mention on a couple of events that are coming up, local diving adventures. We're going to be heading to Beaver Lake. I've got, who's leading that for me? Nick?
Nick is leading Beaver Lake.
Nick Atherton is leading, being the host, September 20th through the 21st down at Beaver Lake. That one, it takes us a while to get down there, but the diving is really good. So take the opportunity to go with friends. We've got half a dozen people lined up already.
8 people signed up, plus Nick and
a couple so should be a good weekend to check out a new dive spot. Not new, but a different dive spot. And then, of course, my very, very favorite event of the year is coming up October 11th. It's our annual Soak Your Gourd Underwater Pumpkin Carving Contest. Traditional fall weather is already been ordered. We'll have lunch and fabulous prizes, and you guys all know that the stakes are high. The people are super, super creative. So looking forward to our annual event and beautiful fall diving weather at Mermet Springs. So mark your calendars for October 11th. And then finally, I do want to make mention that we're coming up on the Scuba Pro trade-in, right? So
Still going on.
they haven't ever done this that I'm aware of, but you can trade in a regulator and get
Working or not.
and get how much off?
Well, you get a Mark 11 or a Mark 17 with a C370 combo for regular price, but you get a free octo. And a free reg bag.
And a free reg bag. So amazing opportunity by Scuba Pro, and that is good through what's the ending date on that?
I'm not sure if I know the end date on that one. I don't know if they've published it.
I'm not sure they've published it. Okay, so that's still in the running. So we've got that. If that's interests you, so if you got a non-working regulator or a working regulator where it's seeing its age, bring it on in, and we could potentially get it traded in for you. So I think we're working on the schedule for 2026. We've got lots of events and activities and fun things planned, so keep an eye out on the website. Our goal is to have it all published and pushed up by the end of October. We gotta have a goal. But the hope is then you can take a look at the calendar and set your dates and mark your calendars for classes and events and travel. So I like having that stuff up as early as possible.
Let's just say we'll have something pushed up by the end of October. We may still add more to it.
There we go. He's hedging his bets. So very good.
I wonder who's responsible for doing that.
All right. Without further ado, I'm very excited. So I got introduced to Coral Reef Alliance through my friends Greg and Pat White. They had been working with Coral Reef Alliance and mentioned the great work that they're doing and thought that they would make a great presentation for us here at Y-kiki. So I want to thank Greg and Pat White for joining us tonight and their introduction. So we're going to be joined by Mandy and Maria with Coral Reef Alliance. They're going to be talking about our reefs, coral reefs, and how we can save them, which I think is, we can talk a lot about all the stressors and the fact that we're losing them, but I really am anxious to hear about what maybe we can do as divers and ambassadors to the underwater world to support their return. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Mandy and Maria to tonight's call. Yay!
Hi everyone. Before we dive into our presentation, I thought I'd give Greg a few minutes to share anecdotes if you would have any. As we were talking about, Greg and Pat have been wonderful supporters of the Coral Reef Alliance, or Coral for short, for nearly 2 decades now, and so that is actually 2 decades of my life, and I'm really grateful for it. So, Greg, if you have anything you'd like to share before Mandy and I dive in and start sharing our screen, please feel free to do so. I don't know what made you choose Coral, why you're still with us. Whatever you care to share is fine with us.
Okay, yeah, thanks. I see some people I know that I've been diving with before, and a lot of people I don't. So let me tell you a little bit about myself and my wife, Pat. We've been diving for something over 30 years now, and I'm sure like anybody who's been diving for a while now, we've noticed that the coral reefs are declining. In a lot of places they're dead. The fish life is not as healthy, it's not as varied. So a number of years ago, Pat and I decided we wanted to try and do something about that. And we thought probably the best thing we could do is find an organization that worked to protect and improve the health of the reefs, and then support that organization. So we kind of looked into some different organizations, and we found Coral. And if any of you are familiar with Charity Navigator, it's a website that rates charities, and that was one site that we used. And we liked what we saw about coral and decided to begin supporting them. We've continued to like what we see and continue to support them. But I guess one reason that I wanted to try and introduce Mandy and Valerie and have this session is that we've done a lot of trips with Valerie and with Y-kiki, and I guess I've been kind of surprised that I only remember one time when anybody else ever talked about supporting any organization that helped to protect or improve the marine environment that we all love. And it's been kind of surprising to me, I guess. And so I thought, well, maybe if I could have people from Coral give a presentation here, other people might be interested in supporting them, or at least, I guess, get an idea of what's being done to try to protect the reefs that we all love so much. So with that said, I'll let the two ladies take over.
Honestly, I like listening to you. We can listen to you instead. All right, let me share my screen and we'll get our time together started. Thank you, Greg, for those really generous words. We believe deeply in our mission, and we work with really dedicated scientists, engineers, conservationists, partners. Everyone has a role to play, apparently including me and Mandy. So, but you guys do as well. So, without further ado, let me organize this. Okay, let me share slideshow. Start from the beginning. Okay. Is this full screen or is it not full screen?
You're good.
It's perfect.
Okay, perfect. We like perfect. So as Valerie was sharing, and as Greg mentioned as well, we work toward a story of hope for our coral reefs. A lot of talk about coral reefs in the conservation space is very realistic, it's accurate, but it's also doom and gloom, right? And so part of the accuracy of our storytelling, of our initiatives, of our partnerships, because after all, we are an alliance for a reason, really hinges on this idea of optimism. And so we take a unique approach to our conservation, grounding it in science as well as local knowledge. So you guys get to meet me. I joke that I am our personality hire because I am a chatter, but I'm also our philanthropy manager. I joined Coral nearly 3 years ago. I studied international development, moved to an island in Panama for 6 months after I graduated college, and fast forward 6 years, I'm still here. I learned to scuba dive in order to make friends, also thinking I'd only be here for 6 months. I fell in love with diving and everything related to the reef. I live in an archipelago, which means I am constantly surrounded by firsthand effects of climate change on the coastal communities here. And on the livelihoods, on our activities, on our tourism, and of course on the reef itself. When I first learned to dive, the reef looked very different than it does now. And so having a tangible role in this mission, which I deeply believe in, makes me really, really thrilled to go to work every day, despite its challenges. And I'm grateful to work for these challenges alongside divers like you guys. I'll let Mandy introduce herself.
Hey everyone, thanks for taking time with us tonight. My name is Mandy. I am Coral's Development and Marketing Director, so I'm on the senior leadership team at the Coral Reef Alliance. So I get to do a little bit of everything. We're in the middle of strategic planning and kind of shifting towards a new vision for the next 5 years. So very excited to tell you guys a bit more about that. I'm based in the Midwest too. I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I studied coral reefs in Australia. So I've got 2 little kids. I'm happy to see little ones on the call today. I've got a 5-year-old and a 9-year-old who also care really deeply about our mission, and I've had the privilege of taking them to see a coral reef, and I hope that they're still there when they're my age and they can go diving. I've been a diver for the last 18 years, so our mission is really close to my heart, and I'm hoping that we actually do have, or I'm not hoping, I'm confident that we have a plan that's going to save coral reefs based in science and our partnership approach. So thank you for taking time with us today.
being led by Mandy makes me, as well as the rest of our senior leadership team, as I mentioned, I am thrilled to go to work every day. I believe in what we do, and it's because of the leadership and the foresight and the proof that is in the science. It's a really exciting time for our organization. We just launched a 5-year strategic plan for the goals that we want to have leading into the next 5 years as milestones are hit in ocean conservation, and as climate change is peaking, bleaching events are worsening, and more people are becoming aware of their role that they can play, of what's really happening. We are in a time of mass communication, which is incredibly powerful as a platform, and opportunities such as this one that you guys are giving us tonight is one way that we can raise awareness, or as Greg mentioned, as well as utilizing your trips together, and all the downtime you aren't under the water can actually talk together, to really put your heads together or even have a different type of dinner time discussion on how to save coral reefs and how you can play a role in that. So our mission has remained the same since our inception over 30 years ago. And we are steadfast in our belief of saving the world's coral reefs. We know that we will not be able to save them all, but we are working really hard to make an impact in priority reef areas. So as Mandy said, the kids that are on the call today and her kids, I don't have children, so I don't know my cat, can enjoy reefs even if they might look different going forward. And what's most important about our organization, other than our optimism, our belief, and my personal humor, is that we have a global impact. And so our unique niche in the conservation space is that we are the only nonprofit that is solely focused on coral reef conservation across all levels, driving results at the local, the regional, and the global levels through our alliance and our partnerships with communities, municipalities, government authorities, and other nonprofits and business partners within the private and public sector.
So we're still in touch with our two founders who were in a group of divers who came together and saw what was happening on the reef. So this was 30 years ago. They were sitting in a cabin in Colorado and thinking about, like, what do? We need to do something to change the trajectory of reefs. And so they started the organization as a small nonprofit that was focused on tourism initiatives and tourism education, making sure that people knew how they should be treating a reef while visiting. And then since then, we've really expanded into working with local partners and the local knowledge holders. We brought on a team of expert scientists to really understand what is happening on reefs and also can corals adapt to climate change, and worked on how we can target really key threats. And as Maria mentioned, like, everything that we do is driven by hope, but it's not a blind hope. It's really informed by the work that we're doing on the ground with many partners, universities, and our science team. So your divers, obviously you know what's at stake. We could lose 90% of the world's coral reefs by 2050, and I think you also know that some of the biggest threats include climate change, overfishing and unsustainable fishing, land-based pollution, and local development pressures. So these are the biggest threats to reefs that we are focused on. And our messaging and our story to you tonight is it's not too late. Our scientists have done the research to look into what is it going to take for coral reefs to adapt, can they adapt? And roughly 5 years ago, we published a modeling adaptation study along with university partners across the globe that proved that coral reefs actually can adapt. But there's certain things that need to be done in order for that to happen. So corals can survive these global threats if we bring together the right partners and we have a conservation approach that's really focused on well-managed protected areas. And a protected area can't just be a line around a map, it has to be truly protected. Reducing land-based pollution, and then ensuring that climate adaptation informs all management strategies.
Also, I just want to add that because I do like to talk, you guys are also allowed to talk. So please feel free to butt in. Feel free to use the hand function since Mandy has left me. And because I'm managing the presentation myself, And you guys, please just speak over me, interrupt. It's okay. I like it. I like questions. And if you don't have any, you can hold them, or don't think of any, you can hold them to the end as well. We'll have some time for that. I forgot to mention that. So as I mentioned, we're actually entering a very exciting time for the organization. Part of our 5-year strategic plan is also to, by 2030, to be in 5 new geographic locations with priority reefs. And so that's really exciting for us because what our main priority is, one of our goals over the next 4 years, is to be building climate resilient reef networks. Okay, that's a mouthful, and I was warned not to trip up on my words, so I'll make sure I go slow. But what that means for us is we are working hard towards creating well-protected areas and improving water quality in areas that have interconnected reefs. I mentioned I live in an archipelago. Think about all the reefs that are around the islands, the water currents, or you can take our actual project locations, such as in the Hawaiian Islands or in the Mesoamerican Reef. And all of these reefs are connected through the currents that bring big corals, little polyps, and through nutrients all around the islands and feed the reefs. And so we're working on how can we impact the reefs that are in Cozumel, as you mentioned, one of your trips will be there, and in a positive manner in order to also impact the reefs that are in Roatan, because they're all part of the Mesoamerican Reef System, which is the second largest reef system in the world after the Great Barrier Reef, and they are connected. So although we have one big ocean, we understand that what happens in one area does actually impact the other. And so we are trying to build climate resilient reefs, taking this adaptation element that Mandy was referring to, that is the cornerstone of our science work, and really implementing that into our data monitoring, into our briefings to municipalities, into our management plans. How is it integrated into our action plans for marine protected areas, and then ultimately all the way up through regulations, so that we can start to really safeguard these reefs from a policy perspective as well. And so we have a top-down approach as well as a bottom-up approach. These reefs need to be diverse, so lots of biodiversity. We don't want just one species of coral, because some corals are more heat resilient than others as water temperatures are rising. We want them to be connected, as I mentioned, through shared ocean currents, and we want them to be well protected. We don't aim for paper parks, as there are a lot, as in it's only protected on paper, but rather we want effectively managed protected areas with patrols, funding, monitoring, and analysis into the efficacy behind all of the regulations that go into place to enable both the coastal communities and the actual coral reef ecosystems to thrive together. And that brings me to my first quiz question. So now you will have to jump in, please. And I'm going to ask you, which of the following is not a consequence of wastewater pollution on coral reefs? A, algal blooms that reduce sunlight. B, increased oxygen levels for marine life. C, coral disease. Or D, loss of diversity. And if you're not here, you can also put it in the chat.
B.
The shop goes B.
Okay. The shop votes B. Anyone have a different answer?
Look at Greg.
They do that wrong.
Fun. You're absolutely correct. We love a good classmate. Yes, share your answer. The answer is indeed B. So as I mentioned, we are focused on clean water and on increasing the efficacy of marine protected areas, as well as building these resilient reef networks through our adaptation science program, which maps the adaptive capacity of reefs. As Mandy mentioned, coral was one of the spearhead one of the studies that found that coral reefs can adapt to climate change if they are given the healthy conditions that they need to do so. And so when we have wastewater pollution, it actually decreases the oxygen in the water due to the decomposition of organic matter, and ultimately that hinders the reef and is bad for all marine species. So I'm glad as divers you guys know that. Oxygen is good for us as well as for the marine species. And that's why we really focus on improving clean water. As divers, we understand the value, not just the beauty of coral reefs, but a lot of people don't have the opportunities to live near a reef like I do, or go diving as you guys do. And so trying to get everyone on board to understand that clean water is not just what we need for the ocean, but also it's a human need. And these two crises are linked. It's better for the coastal communities, and it's better for the corals as well. So when wastewater, and whatever form that might be, whether it's sewage improperly or untreated sewage run or agricultural runoff from fallow plantation from other agricultural lands, it enters the reef. It can enter the water and it damages us in the same way it damages the reefs, right? And so when reefs are stressed, they have a hindered ability to recover from natural events such as bleaching events or other types of stressors. As you mentioned at the beginning, you're fully aware of the stressors of reefs, so I won't go into this too far. But on this map here, you can see, and I can send you the slide deck after, the blue is where there are reefs around the world, and then the red is where there is improperly treated sewage and creating wastewater problems. And so as you can see, unfortunately, they're all very linked. We did a study in Hawaii. We put dye down a toilet and then tracked how fast we were able to detect that dye in the ocean, especially because some of the reefs in Hawaii are only like 10 meters away from shore, and it took only 2 minutes to get to the reef. Obviously, the work that Coral does is site-specific. We have a successful model about how we approach coral conservation, but we understand that in each location, that model is modified to fit the needs of the area and the partners involved. But at the end of the day, having people understand that while talking about wastewater and sewage is not the sexiest topic, it is very real and it is something very tangible that we all can agree that needs to be improved.
I was really shocked that it's not only an issue in like underdeveloped countries, but also in a place like Hawaii, where you would expect that there are systems in place, but there are like 88,000 homes still with cesspools that are just leaching right into the ocean. So it's like really shocking to know the impact it's having on reefs and the breadth of the problem across the globe.
Oh, yeah.
So because of the breadth of the problem across the globe, as Mandy mentioned, what are we doing about it? Our 5-year strategic plan has incredibly ambitious goals because we are up against the timeline. We know that reefs are degrading. We know that climate change is increasing. We have facts, and so we want to know what can we do about it and how can we scale our successful models to be able to make the biggest impact we can on the reefs in the shortest amount of time, knowing that we are in a race. Unfortunately, we are. There are a lot of crises happening at this time, and trying to find a way to be able to balance them all and make progress in each area is challenging, but it's one that we are up to tackling. Part of our goals for our 5-year strategic plan is that by 2030 we want 400 million gallons of sewage and 190 tons of sediment. That's from the runoff off of the mountainside, for example, in Hawaii, that smothers the reef as well in a different way than the actual untreated sewage does in areas such as the Mesoamerican reef. Our goal is to keep that much out of the ocean in order to help the corals naturally adapt to climate change and other changing environmental conditions, so that they have a better chance of surviving. And even though they'll look different, they will be here and their benefits will be able to be felt and experienced, and our lives will still be able to carry on with all the services that they provide for us beyond just their beauty and the tourism.
So Maria, Valerie speaking, I'm wondering, have you guys, has there been any investigation into, say, the cruise ship industry? And from my perspective, it seems like some of the places that we get the joy of diving, those that really embrace the cruise ships, right, is suddenly, it seems like that's adding to the stressors.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mandy, I can't see you.
Oh, you're fine.
Take it away.
I was just going to help you out, Maria, because you've been talking for a little while. We work with what's called a destination management organization, and in some places we help create these, which is like all of the people in a region like Cozumel who are in the tourism industry and local government officials, in order to come up with plans to address issues like the cruise lines. And we try to engage them in the process as well and try to educate them on what they can be doing. It's not something that we're, I would say, directly focused on, because we can get a bigger impact by focusing on the businesses and communities and homes that are on island. But they're definitely a focus for our destination management organization, who are making sure that these sustainable, that the destinations are sustainable and thinking about those impacts. On the corporate partnership side, we don't have any formal partnerships with cruise lines, but we are always in conversation with them. We've talked to at least 5 to 6 cruise lines in the last year, and trying to establish a partnership that's mutually beneficial for the coral reefs, which would be like maybe they want to donate to us, but it would have to be in a really significant way, and they would have to make strong environmental commitments to changing the infrastructure on their ships, and written commitments about how they're going to handle not only wastewater on board, but all of their waste in general.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
How are you actually keeping the sewage and sediment out of the water? I mean, I love what you're saying so far, but it's very general. How about specifics?
Yes. We do have a case study that we're going to go into in a little bit to give you like the actual idea of how this works, but we work with communities to develop what solution is right for them. So there has to be a lot of things in play. We have to have the science that tells us there's a problem here and the reefs need help. And 2, there has to be some type of government support to actually want to implement a solution. And then we look at what are the options that are going to work in this community. So it could be like a home-based waste treatment facility, or it could be a community-based facility in which we help communities implement, or it could be nature-based solutions. It's really like a suite of solutions that could work to address the issue depending on local context. And we'll, in a couple of slides, I think we've got an ideal case study that will help answer that question further.
Great.
Before we get into the case study, we've got one more quiz question, and then we're going to go into one other of the threats. But this next question might be easy for this group. Which animal is often called the lawnmower of the reef because it keeps algae in check?
Parrotfish.
I heard it. Yep, you guys know this. I love the sound of a parrotfish munching on the algae. So yeah, you guys know this as divers, that we need healthy fish populations to keep the coral reefs in balance, and so that they're resilient against climate change. And so that's why one of our key focus areas and strategies is to create well-managed protected areas. And our goal is by 2030 that we will have strengthened the management of 10.8 million acres of protected areas. For us, sometimes this means establishing a new protected area. Sometimes it means going into an area where something's just been designated, but there's no patrolling systems, there's no catch limits, there's no policies, there's no local organizations that are really helping strengthen that region. And so we're just building that capacity and helping make them stronger. Sometimes this is through gear restrictions or seasonal closures. Currently only 8.3% of the areas with coral reefs are protected, so we really want to get that number up. And we have had demonstration projects and pilots that have shown like we can take this model to many other places. So this is where we get into our case study. So in one of the areas we work is the Bay Islands of Honduras, which is a part of the Mesoamerican Reef, the second largest barrier reef system in the world. And we started work here in the early 2000s and really set forth on a path to create first a management plan. So making sure that the Bay Islands National Marine Park had something, a commitment on paper in order to make sure that it was, they're protecting their reef and their resources. And we started by investing in surveys, monitoring, and studies because we needed to know more about what are the threats in this region and why would we need to protect certain areas of this protected area, which reefs were critical to us. And so the 2 big things that we learned from those studies were that there are fish aggregation sites spread throughout the Bay Islands that are critical to reef health that we need to protect. So these are areas where fish are coming together and spawning, and it's happening year after year, and the local communities often know, but there was not a broader community, or fishers often know that, but the broader community didn't really understand the importance of this. And then the second thing that we learned was wastewater is a really big threat here to this reef, and the community was ready to invest in a solution. So we worked together for a few years along with community, local partners. We brought together what we call a technical committee to work together to build a plan for this community, which was to operationalize a treatment plant. And it's a really, this is a picture here of the treatment plant, a smaller, like low footprint treatment plant. We went and visited it, and I was really surprised because it's just like really nested right into the community, and it's owned by the community work, the treatment facility. And this is a really great model because we helped the community build out a tariff system, and this treatment plant is now keeping 33 million gallons of untreated sewage out of the ocean annually, and every year they continue to expand, connect more homes. And so while we were looking at that, we were also looking at, okay, wastewater was a threat, but also this protected area needed to be patrolled because there were large instances of unregulated fishing happening. So we worked with the Roatan Marine Park to develop a robust patrolling program. And before we came along, the Roatan Marine Park didn't even exist. We gave them their first grant in order to get them started up as a nonprofit organization. Because something that's really critical to our approach is we want to build up others to take on the work so that after we're done there, we can kind of walk away and know that it's locally managed and it's going to be sustained in the long term, and then we move on to our next place. So when we talk about our strategic plan and how we're going to be expanding to 5 new places in the next 5 years, that's a really solid commitment. We know it's probably going to be at least 10 years that we're working in that region, because in order to do all these things, as you can imagine, like you're bringing government together and you're working on policy and you're working on science and then potentially an infrastructure project or home-based systems, it can take time. And so we make long-term commitments to these places.
And
then,
go ahead.
No, you.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, Mandy keeps using the word community very critically because we understand that the real stewards of the reef are the community members themselves that are going to be the ones managing their resources, having their livelihoods depend on it, and be the ones impacted by tourism. Roatan is a place, as you mentioned about cruise ships, that receives between 1.6 and 1.9 million tourists a year. So while we say community, it's nothing pertaining to the actual size of the amount of people that this impacts. And so by making the water cleaner, not only for the community but for the tourists as well. We had an initiative in Half Moon Bay, which is in West End Roatan, which is one of the most popular places of the island. That was an initiative for monitoring the water quality, and then therefore, because our science told us that there were pollutants, very bad pollutants, we instituted a reparation project with the Bay Islands Conservation Association in order to decrease the pollutants in the bay there, not only for the local community members, but also just for tourism as a whole on the state and for the reef. And within a span of 3 years, 2016, 2019, so that's 4 years, we reduced the pollutants and fecal bacteria by 96% because of this wastewater treatment plant. And so our initiatives are always focused on how can we help the reefs and how can we help ensure that the community has the resources they need to create sustainable change and positive impacts for the reef moving forward.
So that's what our work looks like, kind of at more of a local level. If you're considering Guyana as like one of our local sites, and then now we're going to take it up to the regional level where this gets a little bit more scientific. We're working in the Mesoamerican Reef region on we're calling the roadmap to reef resilience. And so this is taking our global adaptation science, which is we're developing models for climate resilient marine spatial planning. So we're using satellite technology to look at this region and really help us assess which reefs have adaptive capacity. So this is kind of building off of the study that we did 5 years ago, which proved coral reefs can adapt. And since then, we've been working on this satellite technology to make sure that we can identify these from space, because it's a low tech way for communities to understand where they need to be prioritizing. It'll be a free resource that anyone can use. And then we need to combine that science with the local management. So we have all these local partners who are now stewards of these reefs, and they need to be a part of this. They need to be in these collaborative coalitions where we're talking through like, okay, the science is telling us we need to focus on these regions, but what does the community think about that, and how are they going to react if we decide to rezone or reprioritize or take petroleum resources from one region and focus them in another. So that's the management piece of it. And then the third is financing. So we're working with an organization called the MAR Fund, Mesoamerican Reef Fund, and they're helping us identify a diverse portfolio of funding sources so that there's long-term sustainability for the organizations that are going to be managing the reefs in this region. And that could look like a lot of things. It could be, I think some type of like debt swap we're looking at foundations, obviously always, but different financing mechanisms that will make sure that they have funding to continue this work. And then combining those three things, the output of that is going to be rezoned and reprioritization of this region. Obviously, that's it's a lot of work because you have to also navigate the politics of each region and change over in government in some areas. But because we've been working in this region for so long, we have the right people and the right relationships in place. And so excited to see this project. This just launched earlier this year. And so for the next 3 years, we'll be kind of navigating this, and hopefully the end result is a more resilient reef because we've really strongly prioritized and there's financing in place.
So what I just put in the chat for those that have access to their computers and their fingers, if they're not too far away, is the Island Coral Atlas. And I'm not sure if that actually came up on your search bar, but I typed in Roatan Island. And what this is a freely, publicly available source that our Global Conservation Science team is working to create a map layer. This is an interactive map where you can look at, you can have different filters like you do in Google Maps. I liken it to Google Maps when you have like this default traffic and satellite view. And our science team is working on creating another map layer to influence global marine spatial planning, right? We keep talking about adaptive capacity of reefs and mapping where they are so we can put that into regulations through our alliances and our partnerships with different actors from the local level of local organizations such as Roatan Marine Park up to the actual government of Honduras, and then on a regional level including the government of Mexico and Guatemala, Honduras, and Belize, everyone that's involved in the decisions that impact the Mesoamerican reef. Another example I like to give, since you were asking for specifics, is the water quality monitoring project that we helped fund and carry out on Roatan was the foundation for gaining credibility and traction to lead what the first ever region-wide water quality study of this region of the Mesoamerican reef. And why that's important, it seems like, oh, of course somebody would have monitored all the water quality from Cancun all the way down to Roatan. Well, because different countries are independent, they're also able to not follow the same gradients and criterion for their scale of what is poor quality and what is good water quality. So we were able to have a uniform criterion and have partners within each of those countries to help carry out the scientific study to be able to inform accurate data on water quality for the region, to then be able to influence policy to make reef management more effective.
So our goal around building these resilient reefs is that by 2030, we want to identify and prioritize high resilient coral reef areas. And we want to do this in 5 new regions. So exactly what we just explained in the Mesoamerican reef, we want to take that to 4 more places. And very strategically. So we want to choose the right places, probably with large networks of coral reefs. And as you can hear, our work, it's a little bit complex because that's what it's going to take to save coral reefs. And we're a little bit different than the organizations that are going out planting baby corals. And we truly believe that, like, if we don't do the work that we're doing, which is the hard work, the long-term work, the maybe not so sexy work, that all those baby corals are not going to survive. So I think it's really important and critical that we're able to continue to do the work that we're doing and that it's able to scale to additional places, which in November we'll be announcing kind of where we're going to go next with this work, which is really exciting. You can go to the next one, Maria. That's you, right?
Yeah, that's me. I'm famous. Actually, I am in a lot of our marketing materials. I have the fortunate pleasure of being able to go on dive trips just like you guys. Maybe one day I can join one of yours if you allow me to, or you can join some of ours. I am a dive master. I can help save some people's lives. I'm a great hand holder. I always give Mandy her weight when at the end of the dive she forgets I am a sacrificial lamb. But expanding our global influence. The reason why that is one of our goals for our strategic plan is because we know that we cannot do our mission, we cannot achieve our goals, we cannot save the reefs without everyone's input, right? Many hands make light work. There I just flubbed. I'm sorry, I'm probably going to get kicked off now. But it makes light work, and so
I'll fix it in post-process.
Thank you. I just call me. I can redo it. I'll start over and I'll decrease on the jokes. But we really do multiply our input when we connect our local conservation to all of the web that our alliance enables. And that goes from everyone such as you and I, or the everyday diver, to the snorkeler, to even our coworker that I had the fortunate pleasure of being with her while she saw Coral Reef for the first time. Mind you, she'd already been working for us for 2 years, but she is a data person. So it was an incredible experience to be side by side with someone as they saw reefs for the first time, because we may take them for granted. I guess I shouldn't speak for anybody else, but I do living here, and their co-benefits have a price point of $9.9 trillion annually. In terms of what they provide for everyone, whether you live near a reef or you don't, whether you are enjoying your seafood or you are protecting you want your home protected from coastal erosion. And so by sharing our stories and sharing our science, we are influencing the right people. We are getting people behind our cause. We are really putting money where our mouth is, trying to find the most cost-effective yet functional ways to carry out our programs, and as Mandy said, really building up the stewards of the reef that these initiatives depend on and that the reefs depend on, and it's vice versa. It's a two-way street, right? Their livelihoods, whether albeit ecotourism or fishing, do rely on the coral reefs.
I have a question.
Yes, Richard.
I'm sorry.
Do not say sorry. I love questions.
So currently about 80% of all waste materials entering the ocean goes untreated. Not counting the 200 million metric tons of plastic that's already been dumped into the oceans.
Correct.
You doing anything to eliminate current waste in the ocean?
Current waste, as in instead of stopping.
Cleanup work.
Correct. I can answer that unless Mandy you want to strategically answer that.
I wondered if you meant plastic waste, because we do not.
All waste.
Always.
Oh no, we're solely focused on wastewater because of the significance of how it threatens coral reefs, whereas plastic is not as big of a threat to the coral reef ecosystem itself. And we've really had to focus ourselves and on our mission because because of the urgency and resources.
I also think, as you said, there is already so much pollution that already exists in the oceans, right? And marrying the two ideas that you just put forth and what Mandy said is that we do not want to drift from our mission. There are a lot of incredible initiatives that are using really innovative science to play their role in this conservation space for lack of a better word, cleaning up the ocean. And we have decided that our role is going to be curbing the amount of pollution and other detriments that enter the ocean rather than taking out. That is where we find our unique space and our ability to impact a healthy future for reefs. But the short answer is no, we're not currently doing anything to take anything out. We are focused on stopping things from entering.
That was an excellent answer. Thank you.
You're welcome. I love questions, so keep them coming. And this is a very complicated, busy slide, but what it is, it's all of our partners. So I keep referring to our alliance, and it's because it is huge. It is huge. We work as a broker of relationships, of funding, of technical capacity, of advice, of you name it. We find this to be our niche in this space, and it's the same space we've held for over 30 years. The map at the bottom shows where we aim to be in the next 5 years and forward. As Mandy said, we have a very strict criterion that we do not enter a new region until we have a 10-year plan as well as an exit strategy in place. Obviously, we do not have crystal balls, but we do go in with the acknowledgement that our time ideally is short being relative, I guess, and to build up the local capacity of the organization so that they basically giving them the tools to build their own house rather than building a house for them. That's in sharing our success stories and our science across the board, whether you are in the South Pacific or you're in the South Caribbean. And so by working at local, regional, and global scales, we really do have that hope and belief because it is grounded in science. It's backed by our local knowledge. Our solutions are context specific and they're proven. And we are constantly learning from the lessons that our past projects and relationships have earned us and instituting them into actionable science so that corals can survive and ideally ultimately thrive as well. So what can you guys do? So one of the things that you can do already is what you're doing right now. By showing up, by listening, by asking questions. Thank you, Richard. All of you need to step up, please. And carrying out responsible diving practices. Be an advocate for the reef when you're on your dive trips, when you're not on your dive trips. If someone's kicking a reef or a coral, some of the people in our communities where we work didn't even know corals were alive. Mandy and I presented to a corporate partner of ours that had already been a partner, already wanted to support our ocean conservation and our coral initiatives. And when we gave them a presentation, the biggest takeaway for them was less about what we do and more the fact that coral reefs were even animals and not plants. And they'd already chosen to support our cause. So really doing what I'm doing, talking, you can obviously wear reef safe sunscreen, reef safe, our SPF clothing is even better. Doing your part by partaking in beach cleanups. That goes to Richard's motion of the plastics and what's already coming from the ocean. A lot of the beach cleanups actually is trash or other debris that the ocean has brought in from somewhere else that has landed on the beach, as well as, of course, the pollution, the land-based pollution and garbage that comes from the beach themselves and is already there. You can host a fundraiser. I'm at the age, I'm nearly 16, where all of my colleagues are running marathons. If you want to run a marathon and choose coral as your cause, please be the first one to tell me. I will make that happen for you. You can, that goes into funding our initiatives, as Greg and Pat have generously done nearly 2 decades. The corals cannot talk for themselves. Mandy and I are their advocates. You are as well. And your resources, albeit time or finances, really do go a long way. It's tacky, it's cheesy, it sounds like AI. I think I said it first before AI, but you can make waves for and change the tides in terms of the future for reefs and move them away from their current trajectory. And also talk to us. We can brainstorm ways that fit into your time, your schedule, your expertise, your creative passions, in ways to be much more curated into how you can support coral reef conservation in a meaningful way to you, because that's what ultimately matters most beyond the actual positive impacts. You can also come diving with us. Seems like you have a full schedule of dive trips ahead of you, but if you would like to join us on the Demai, by us, I mean Mandy, I'm still trying to find a way to weasel my way in. Hopefully, for those that enjoy me, I will be able to find a way there, and for those that don't, rest assured, I probably will not be able to find my way onto that trip. We're going to Raja Ampat in March of next year. We have 4 spots left. The group is only going to be about 12 people anyway, so it's really intimate in the best way. I like to add that nitrox and spa and laundry services are all included. But long story short, if any of you are interested, please feel free to email me, and interest is always commitment free. So please feel free to email me if you'd like more information. And now we get down to Richard's purview of asking questions.
Well, actually, Maria, I had a quick comment. So, Pat and Greg White and I just got back from a trip to, all-encompassing of the Arctic area, but ended up in Iceland. Oh my gosh, you could have warned me. Jeez.
What'd you think I was getting up for?
Anyway, one of the ladies, we've had her on as a presenter as well, is Tiffany Duwong, and I was just texting with her because she was talking about she's in Roatan also. I guess there's a small section that is the corals are absolutely thriving and doing very healthy, and so they're doing a ton of research trying to figure out what makes them different, right? Why are they thriving in the same situations that others are struggling? So her organization is called Telecoral. She says she doesn't know you and Mandy, but she has talked with Coral in the past. Do you know about Telecoral?
So I was just about to bring up Tela, actually, because we have some of our programs along the north coast in Tela and Trujillo, which is across the bay there. Like, it's not really a bay, it's an hour and a half by ferry. But it's across from the Bay Islands, and it's along the north coast. And so in that area, Tiffany is entirely correct. Obviously, this is where her work focuses on, is what we were calling more misbehaving reefs. And so there are some corals there. I actually just sent my team a screenshot of Tela divers, which is our dive company there, them at one of the protected areas in Tela, to show them how healthy and thriving their corporas are, the Elkhorn coral there. Because when I visited on a coral trip with some of our donors, we went snorkeling there and diving there, and it reminded me why I do the work I do. And part of the misbehaving element, for lack of a better terminology of it, is that the water there can be very, very murky, which is abnormal, I wouldn't say abnormal, but abnormal for the clean water that we talk about. And obviously there's good nutrients and bad nutrients in the water. And so what was happening is, when some of the sedimentation that was in the nutrients that made the water murky were burned off by the sun and less like wave movement, the reefs were more exposed to sunlight in a way they hadn't been. So and they were more damaged because of that. The sunlight the murky water and the nutrients that were providing a level of protection against the intensity of the sun and the rising water temperatures that enabled, I would guess, like cooler pockets. And Tiffany probably has a much more scientific way of describing this than I do, to keep the reefs healthy. I liken it to when I go from the beach in New Jersey, I can hang out there for a long time, and then when I come to Panama, I remember I can go outside only for 1 hour because the sun is much stronger. And it's incredible. And the north coast of Honduras does not receive a lot of international tourism, such as the Bay Islands of Honduras, and that is why Coral is working in this area, because we are working along, obviously, the entire Mesoamerican reef system, which stretches over 600 miles, but also even in this smaller pocket of Honduras, which is so necessary for their economy, for their livelihood based on the fisheries, and it's all connected. And studying these reefs and raising awareness about them and getting people involved is the only way to learn. And I had not even heard of Tela before, and now I'm really grateful that you brought that up, because now it's a big part of my life. I've been there 4 times this year.
What I enjoyed about talking to Tiffany is the hopefulness of it, right? So because I get to travel around the world, and Greg and Pat join me on a lot of these dive trips, we see the whole ramification, right? So we see a lot of these reefs succumbing to all the stressors. So it's just nice to hear, you know, like here, there's this whole section that's just thriving, and why? And so that's interesting too, right? So, and what I like about what you're saying with coral is you're reaching out and combining other organizations, so we're all working together. It's not one entity, you know, that we're sort of putting all our eggs in one basket. It's reaching out and trying to solve the problem collectively, because I think it's going to take a collective effort to win, if you will, or to make an impact.
Yeah, we're definitely in for working as an alliance because we don't want to compete with anyone. We want to come into a region and support existing efforts. So even in our expansion, when we're going to be going to 5 new regions, we're first having conversations to understand like who's already doing work here. And usually, you know, the Nature Conservancy is there and Wildlife Conservation Society is there, and we want to figure out exactly like what is the role for us in order to achieve coral reef resilience. So you're exactly right. Like it has to be everyone working together, or we're not going to save them.
Agreed.
Anyone else have questions for us? You guys have had really good questions so far. It's been really great speaking with you.
Now you just made everybody nervous.
Okay.
I didn't see any other questions in the chat.
Pardon?
I did not see any other questions in the chat, so.
Okay.
Great, me neither. As I've mentioned several times, we are very open to talking more in depth about the specifics of our projects, of our initiatives, of our partners, be it in Tela or in Maui, on Oahu, or in the Coral Triangle, or even talking about where we're headed next, which will be very excitedly released in a month from now. And so if you'd like to be on our radar for any news, you can join our newsletter. You can follow us on social media. I'm 30, so that's how I get my news. Also how I follow the Reefs in Tela. And just know that we love making connections. As I mentioned, Coral is a broker. Each and every one of us are brokers ourselves in terms of being stewards of the reef. Even if you just want to tell me the coolest trip you ever saw when you went to the Galapagos like I did, that would be great. Or how do I actually get dry suit certified if I'm going to go dive in the Arctic? Yeah, I don't actually want to know that one, so we can skip that one. But please feel free to reach out to Mandy and I. I'll make sure to give Paul and Valerie our emails, and you can have my phone number.
It's been a
Thank you so
pleasure.
much.
It's been a pleasure listening to you.
We got a question in the chat.
Yep.
Yes, I have, and I'll look forward to being in contact with you because I'd like to get involved.
Thank you,
Great,
Richard.
Thanks.
So we do have a question. Do you ever work with student volunteers, high school grades, college age students?
We don't currently have a strong volunteer program. I would say if we had a grad student or college age student who wanted to do some volunteer work or internship and had a specific skill set that would support the organization, that's definitely something we would consider. So I would, yeah, we could connect about that.
Do you work with FAU?
FMU.
FAU, Florida Atlantic University?
Currently, I do not believe that one of our university partners. However, on our a lot of PhD students and grad students, they don't have to be PhDs, are involved in our work in Mexico. We have different partnerships with different universities, albeit if you're a researcher on a research team. And I know in Cozumel we work with a youth initiative as well, but that's like locally based. I don't believe FAU is on our list, but I haven't memorized it all. So I can double check and get back to you after I check in with our conservation science director.
I have a daughter that just entered grad school there at Green Valley. Just coral conservation is her specialty.
Oh,
And just looking for a research team.
awesome. Well, Richard, if you email me, I will get an answer as quick as I can. And either way, I'd love to stay in contact, or if your daughter just wants to pick one of our scientists' brains, mine is very small compared to theirs, so I wouldn't be the person for that. But I'm sure we can find some time for that.
Thank you.
And I do want to give a quick shout out to Raja Ampat and Halamahara. So if you're interested, that would be a great destination to join Coral and visit, because it's the last frontier out there in Indonesia. It is absolutely spectacular. So it's that Disney-like view of the coral reefs. Just very healthy and lovely and wonderful. So enjoy if you can go.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for helping us promote that.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I've not seen it.
Oh,
It'll be my first time.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Great. Well, it was so nice to meet you all. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you both.
I do want to take this opportunity to thank both ladies for joining us tonight, and to Greg and Pat White also for making the introduction. I'm excited about all of the things that you guys are doing, and appreciate you for the positive approach, because it does tend to be a little overwhelming otherwise. So thank you, ladies. Mandy, thank you, Maria, for joining us, and let's give everybody a round of applause.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
All right, everybody. Have
Great
a
to meet you
wonderful
all.
evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. We sure appreciate you. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.